Hey, it's Ronnie here, and today I'm going to do a bit of a longer video because I want to go through how to approach writing a text response essay. I'm not going to go through a particular text, I'm just going to give you some basics as to the things that you need to include and the best way to structure your response if you want to elevate your essays for text response. And this goes for your SACs and the exam at the end of the year. So a couple of things. Firstly, get to know this document, okay? So this is the VCE English exam report from 2024, and it is such a useful document for you to get your heads around. In particular, for each section, but for section A, it's extremely useful because it goes through the different types of questions and how to approach answering each one of those questions depending on the type of topic. So you have propositional topics that are questions like, do you agree? To what extent do you agree? Do you agree? Discuss. So those are the sort of questions that you need to know how to answer. Another type of question is your direct question. So that could be something like, how does Wilder show the impact celebrity has on those in Hollywood? Or it could be a quotation. Now, if there's a quote in your question, you need to make sure that you refer to the ideas that are presented in the quote. Yes, you would quote part of the quote within your essay, preferably within your paragraphs, but it is something that you cannot ignore. So include the quote as a way of building on the ideas that are connected to the overall question as well. It's like a little bit of a hint in a way. This is another theme that you can talk about in your essay, so it helps you unpack the question. So this is a useful document, and I've referred to it in my latest blog post, which you can find on ronniesramblings.com. But there's a great list of terms as well that you will see in this document that helps you understand what it is exactly that you need to discuss in your essays. So words such as attempts. Now, attempts shows that you're trying to do something. Challenges. I love that type of question. I love the word challenges in a question because you're thinking about those ideas in terms of social and cultural values within an audience, but also within the text itself and the context of the text. Defends, determines, explores, reinforces. And the last one that was a new term that was used in the 2024 VCA exam for English was interplays. So a great way of trying to understand how a writer, director, author, poet, whoever is trying to explore particular ideas within a text. And so these terms that you need to familiarise yourself with and ways to unpack it is included within this document. There are also sample essays in here too that will allow you to see how exactly you would unpack a topic and the best ways to approach those topics in terms of strategies if you want to have that, as I say in the actual report, an enhanced response. So in the higher performing responses. So go to the VCA website and download this document. It is such a useful resource for all aspects of the exam, but these are also things you need to adopt when it comes to writing any one of the essays in the exam and your SACs this year. So the first thing I want to also go through, so I've gone through that is my first thing. Now the second thing are some tips to write your essay response. So the first thing is know your text. Don't go into a SAC thinking, I know it, I've watched the film, I've read the study guide, I read the lit charts, we're right. You've got to know more than that. So yes, you need to know the characters, yes, you need to know the plot, and you have to have an understanding of those big ideas and themes, but it's also really useful to understand the setting in terms of context, the social and historical setting of the time. You're also looking at the physical setting. So how does the physical setting impact what happens to the characters? So for example, like in Born a Crime with Trevor Noah, that physical setting is so important because, within Soweto and within Johannesburg, that impacts what is happening to him and also has an impact on those around him too. Characters. So you're not just looking at the major characters, you're looking at minor characters too. Who are those minor characters? What do they add? Who are they symbolic of within terms of people within society? How do they connect to the main character and what does the main character learn from them? Other things you need to include are structural elements of the text. So that means, how is the text constructed? What type of text is it? How does that impact how we read the text? The perspective, the point of view, the symbolism within the text, the way it's structured. Is it chronological or is it non-linear? Those sort of things need to be considered. What type of language is used? That is another important factor. Is it colloquial? Is it formal? Is it a reflection of the period of time that the text has been written in? Why is that important within that text? You need to be able to answer that too and include that as part of your evidence. Symbolism, also something that is relevant, and integrate that. How does the author, the writer, use symbolism to create meaning in the text that represents something within society or represents a moment or represents, an element concerning the character and the issues involved. The other thing I want to talk about is how to structure your essay. Now, this shouldn't be new at all. You have an introduction. The introduction needs to unpack the implications of the prompt, address the prompt directly. Then you need to write your body paragraphs. So what are your body paragraphs going to be about in relation to the themes? And then you structure your to seal paragraph. So topic sentence, clarifying sentence. Your evidence should focus on a what, how, why approach. And that's where you include your analysis. So what's the example? How does the author show it through those structural elements of the text, and why? What is that message that the author's conveying that connects back to the topic? And finally, your linking sentences are that overall message that the author is presenting in terms of the topic and the theme that you've discussed within that paragraph. Another thing you need to remember with your conclusions, you're not just summarizing. What you need to do with your conclusions is make sure you're resolving the topic. What is the author conveying regarding those themes and issues, concerns that are within the actual topic that you're answering? The other thing that I want you to understand is that there are a few things that you shouldn't do in your essays. These are things like saying, in this essay, I will discuss, as I mentioned previously. So avoid those personal pronouns, avoid using I, avoid using in this essay or in the previous paragraph. Those are things that you shouldn't be writing at this level. Integrate your quotes seamlessly. There is no need for you to be saying this quote shows. The quote itself needs to be woven into your writing and help explain what you're trying to say. It needs to sound natural. There needs to be fluency. Avoid structuring arguments around characters. This should be a no-no, and it should have been for a while now. There should not be a focus on your arguments being centered on character. Instead, your arguments need to be centered thematically. Use the characters as a way of exploring the idea in your paragraphs within your explanations. Learn how to spell the author's name correctly. That's sort of important, and the characters too. And always acknowledge the text. It's always a pet peeve of mine, and a lot of English teachers I know, when you don't acknowledge the text, give it capital letters, underline, inverted commas, whatever it takes, just make sure that you acknowledge the title. Really, really good thing. Now, I know that this is a really long post, and I know you're probably going, oh my gosh, it's so boring. Yeah, probably. It's an essay. I can't make this exciting, but you know, it's what it is. But you want to do well. You want to write well. I suggest you go to ronniesramblings.com. I've written a whole blog which has a lot more detail in it and gives you a lot more insight as to how to write. Go on to that, have a look. If you have any questions, get in touch. I'm happy to help.